The day the sky split open, everything changed. For years, humanity had gazed at the stars, wondering if they were alone. That question was answered when an enormous vessel, larger than any human city, descended into Earth's orbit. It was unlike anything seen before. Sleek, shimmering with an iridescent glow, its sheer presence a declaration of superiority. The world held its breath as a message, broadcasted across every screen, echoed in perfect, synthesized English. You are now under the observation of the Galactic Dominion. Do not resist. It was not a greeting. It was a statement. The Dominion was an ancient empire, a coalition of powerful species that had ruled the stars for millennia. They had discovered thousands of civilizations, assessed them, and decided their place in the galactic order. Most were assimilated, some were discarded, and a rare few were deemed worthy of true power. Earth, they decided, was not one of them. A delegation arrived days later. The ship touched down outside Geneva, where world leaders had gathered in cautious anticipation. The Dominion envoys emerged, tall, elegant beings with luminous eyes and skin that shimmered like polished stone. Their robes, woven with threads of light, radiated authority. High Chancellor Varkos stepped forward, his elongated face betraying neither curiosity nor concern. His kind had seen 1,000 worlds before. Earth was no different. He spoke with perfect clarity, his voice emotionless yet commanding. We recognize your progress. You have developed space travel, rudimentary though it is. You have conquered your planet, though inefficiently. You have achieved artificial intelligence, though primitive. But you are reckless, violent. You wage wars among yourselves, and your world is dying by your own hands. You are not ready. Murmurs rippled through the human delegation, but Varkos continued. The Dominion will guide you. Your technology will be regulated. Your military will be dismantled. You will have access to limited advancements under our supervision. If you comply, you will be granted a place among the lesser species of our order. If you resist, he paused, tilting his head slightly. There will be consequences. A heavy silence fell. Humanity had always imagined first contact as a moment of wonder, of shared knowledge and boundless possibilities. Instead, they had been given an ultimatum. The UN Secretary-General, a composed yet visibly tense woman named Elena Vasquez, stepped forward. Her voice was steady. And if we refuse? Varkos studied her as if she were a misbehaving child. Then your civilization will stagnate. We will restrict your access to the stars. We will not destroy you. We do not need to. Time will do that for us. It was not a direct threat, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. They had done this before. They had seen species like humanity rise and fall without intervention. The Dominion was merely accelerating the inevitable. The meeting ended with forced diplomatic smiles, scripted pleasantries, and veiled warnings. The Dominion representatives left, but their ships remained. They were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They did not need chains or weapons. They had laws, restrictions, and the quiet confidence of a civilization that had never been defied. As the skies remained filled with foreign vessels, humanity stood at a crossroads. Submit and accept a future dictated by others, or find a way to prove them wrong. And deep within the halls of Earth's governments, in underground laboratories, and whispered conversations, a single thought took root. They think we are weak. They are wrong. The Dominion wasted no time in enforcing its will. Within weeks of first contact, Earth's most ambitious scientific projects were halted. Research labs received official notices from Dominion representatives, warning them against unsanctioned technological acceleration. Space programs were gutted, their budgets slashed or redirected toward approved Dominion-sponsored initiatives. Defense industries were ordered to cease all weapons development beyond what was deemed appropriate for planetary security. They had done this before. The Dominion's rule was not one of open tyranny, but of slow suffocation. They did not conquer through war, but through bureaucracy. They drowned worlds in regulations, ensuring that no civilization could ever rise beyond its designated place. Earth was assigned the rank of a Category 4 civilization, permitted to trade, permitted to learn, but never permitted to truly advance. Many accepted the new reality with resignation. Some even welcomed it. The Dominion's laws promised stability, prosperity, an end to the constant arms races and conflicts that had plagued humanity for centuries. The United Nations, now acting as Earth's official liaison to the Dominion, urged compliance. But compliance was never humanity's strong suit. In underground facilities, in secret research stations, hidden beneath mountains, and buried deep in the ocean, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly. The Dominion had given their orders, but humanity had found the loopholes. The first breakthrough came from a team of physicists in a covert lab in Argentina. The Dominion had banned the development of faster-than-light travel, but they had not banned gravitational research. With careful wording and technical obfuscation, Earth's brightest minds began experimenting with warp field manipulation under the guise of atmospheric energy studies. Meanwhile, defense experts played a different game. If they could not build weapons, they would build tools, mining lasers that, with minor modifications, could double as railguns, asteroid demolition drones that could be repurposed into autonomous combat units, civilian spacecraft reinforced for long-term durability, but designed to withstand direct fire. They weren't breaking the rules. Not exactly. They were bending them until they were paper-thin. The Dominion watched, but they did not understand. To them, technological advancement was a linear path, carefully controlled and maintained. They could not fathom a species that would refuse to follow the road laid before them. But not everyone was content to play the long game. In the heart of New Delhi, a riot broke out when Dominion officials shut down an experimental energy plant. The project had been poised to revolutionize global power consumption, but the Dominion labeled it environmentally unsustainable, a hollow excuse designed to keep humanity dependent on their sanctioned technology. The people did not accept it. Protests spread across major cities. Scientists, engineers, and even military officials who once worked in the open were forced underground. Those who cooperated with the Dominion were branded as traitors. The world was dividing, and the cracks were growing wider. The Dominion, though aware of the unrest, remained unconcerned. Humanity had no fleet, no real way to challenge their authority. They had seen this pattern before, planets pushing against their shackles, only to be beaten down by time and control. They had no idea that Earth was different. In a hidden research base beneath the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, a group of scientists gathered around a console, watching numbers flicker across the screen. The calculations were done. The test was ready. A pulse of energy surged through the facility. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, space itself seemed to ripple. A metal object, no larger than a coin, vanished from one side of the room and reappeared on the other. For the first time in history, humanity had folded space. The Dominion had banned faster-than-light travel. But they never said anything about teleportation. The first crack had formed in the Dominion's control, and humanity was ready to drive a wedge straight through it. The Dominion wasn't the only one watching Earth's defiance. Among the many species that operated under Dominion rule, some followed its laws, others simply endured them, and a few actively preyed upon those too weak to resist. The Tarkari were among the latter. A brutal warrior species with a culture built on conquest, the Tarkari saw Earth's restrictions as an opportunity. The Dominion had shackled humanity, stripped them of their right to military expansion, and ensured they had no warships capable of space combat. To the Tarkari, Earth was nothing more than an unprotected resource, ripe for plunder. And so, they came. The attack was swift, without warning or mercy. A Tarkari raiding fleet, composed of a dozen warships, emerged from hyperspace just outside Earth's orbit. They did not bother with demands or negotiations. Instead, they launched a full-scale assault, targeting major cities with orbital bombardments, while deploying ground troops in key locations. Sydney burned first. Energy blasts carved through skyscrapers as evacuation sirens screamed across the city. In Tokyo, Tarkari dropships landed in the financial district, their warriors pouring into the streets, slaughtering those who stood in their way. Across Europe, tactical strikes crippled power grids, plunging entire nations into darkness. The Dominion did nothing. Their laws were clear. They did not intervene in lesser conflicts unless they threatened galactic stability. Earth was, in their eyes, a minor world of no consequence. This was not their war. But humanity had never needed saviors. The response was chaotic at first. The world's leaders scrambled for answers, calling for diplomatic solutions that would never come. The Tarkari did not negotiate. They expected terror, surrender. They had done this before. Weak species folded under their brutality. Instead, they found resistance. Militaries that had been forced into stagnation adapted overnight. What little hardware humanity had left, old fighter jets, outdated tanks, retrofitted naval vessels, were thrown into the fight. But technology was not humanity's greatest weapon. It was their ability to adapt. In the streets of New York, Tarkari warriors encountered resistance fighters using guerrilla tactics. Civilians armed themselves with makeshift explosives, taking down armored patrols in coordinated ambushes. In Berlin, snipers used electromagnetic rail rifles, originally designed for asteroid mining, to pierce through Tarkari armor. Humanity had no warships, so they turned civilian freighters into battering rams. In Earth's orbit, old cargo vessels, rigged with explosives and piloted remotely, crashed into Tarkari landing craft, crippling their ability to reinforce their troops. And then there was Antarctica. The Tarkari, seeking to eliminate hidden research facilities, launched an assault on what they believed to be a military installation. Instead, they found themselves inside a trap. The teleportation experiment had been refined in secret, and the scientists were ready. As Tarkari forces breached the facility, their units began vanishing. One by one, transported hundreds of miles away, dropped into the frozen wastelands with no support, no way back. The invasion, meant to be a swift and overwhelming conquest, turned into a slow, brutal massacre. Within 2 weeks, the Tarkari fleet, battered and humiliated, was forced to retreat. They had underestimated Earth. They had believed they were fighting another broken, cowed species. Instead, they had learned a painful lesson. Earth was not weak. Earth was not prey. And now, the galaxy knew it. The Tarkari fled, but their defeat sent shockwaves across the galaxy. News of Earth's victory spread faster than the Dominion could suppress it. Across hundreds of worlds, oppressed species whispered in darkened rooms, speaking of the unthinkable, a world that had fought back and won. Humanity, a species barely acknowledged by the Dominion, had repelled one of the most feared warrior races in the galaxy. To those who lived under the Dominion's rule, Earth became something new, a symbol of defiance. At first, the Dominion dismissed it as an anomaly, a fluke, a backwater species getting lucky against an undisciplined raiding force. But they could not ignore what came next. The messages started small, encrypted transmissions, barely noticeable among the vast streams of galactic data. Pleas for help, questions about Earth's strategies, offers of trade, not for goods, but for knowledge. And humanity answered. Deep beneath the ruins of Geneva, a hidden council of Earth's greatest minds convened. Scientists, military leaders, and rogue diplomats worked in secret, forging an unspoken agreement. Earth would not stand alone. The Dominion's greatest strength was its control over technology and information. Humanity had already found loopholes in their laws, and now they shared those secrets with others. They taught species how to modify their Dominion-approved technology without detection. They traded blueprints for weapons disguised as industrial tools. They trained insurgents in guerrilla tactics, adapting Earth's own history of asymmetric warfare to alien battlefields. and the galaxy began to change. On the mining world of Kesra 9, the enslaved labor force of the Dravok overthrew their Dominion-installed overseers, using modified excavation equipment as makeshift war machines. On the ocean planet of Urith, an underground resistance movement took control of a Dominion trade hub, jamming communications for an entire sector before vanishing beneath the waves. World by world, rebellion ignited. The Dominion finally took notice. They did not strike immediately. They never did. First came the warnings, stern diplomatic messages sent to Earth's leaders, demanding an end to their interference. Earth, in official channels, denied everything. But the Dominion knew better. So they sent a different kind of message. In the dead of night, a Dominion strike team, silent, unseen, descended upon a secret research facility in the Andes. They killed everyone inside. Scientists, engineers, guards. No demands, no negotiations, a statement written in blood. The Dominion had been patient. That patience was over. The next day, the message arrived. Chancellor Varkos himself spoke to the world, his holographic image towering over Earth's capital cities. You believe yourselves untouchable. You are not. We have tolerated your defiance long enough. This is your final warning. Cease your interference, or we will ensure that Earth is no longer a threat. The Dominion has crushed greater civilizations than yours. Do not make the mistake of believing you are different. But the Dominion had already made their mistake. They thought fear would break humanity. Instead, they had given them something they could never take back, a reason to fight. And now, the war was inevitable. The Dominion expected Earth to surrender. It was the logical choice. No species had ever survived a direct war against them. They had fleets that spanned entire star systems, technology that dwarfed human ingenuity, and a grip on the galaxy so absolute that resistance had always been futile. But humanity had never cared for impossible odds. The war did not begin with grand battles or declarations. There were no formal engagements, no fleets clashing in the depths of space. The Dominion was too powerful for that. Instead, Earth waged war the only way it could, in the shadows. It started with the disappearances. Dominion patrol ships monitoring Earth's orbital traffic began vanishing, their emergency beacons activating hours later, only to be found adrift, their crews missing, their systems wiped clean. On distant colony worlds, supply depots meant to fuel Dominion war efforts were destroyed by accidents, fires, reactor malfunctions, unexplained sabotage. The Dominion's communication networks, once infallible, suffered sudden outages. Encrypted transmissions turned into unreadable static. Supply routes were rerouted through dangerous asteroid fields. Military shipments went missing, their escorts reporting phantom signals before their convoys simply ceased to exist. The Dominion was fighting an enemy it couldn't see. In truth, humanity had no fleet capable of direct confrontation. What they had were minds. Hackers infiltrated Dominion systems, reprogramming cargo drones to redirect shipments to hidden rebel bases. Engineers found ways to overload Dominion reactors, causing entire refineries to implode in what appeared to be technical malfunctions. Spies, disguised as loyal traders, poisoned fuel supplies meant for Dominion warships, leaving entire fleets stranded in deep space. The war spread far beyond Earth. Inspired by humanity's defiance, other species escalated their resistance. The mining rebels of Kesra 9 hijacked a Dominion battleship, ramming it into a military station before disappearing into the asteroid belt. Smugglers on the frozen moon of Lekar 7 began distributing weapons hidden in shipments of Dominion-approved rations. The once silent underground movements across dozens of planets now coordinated their attacks with precision. And still, Earth remained untouched. For the first time in its history, the Dominion was losing control, not to open warfare, but to something far more dangerous: chaos. But the Dominion was not blind. They understood now that Earth was not a minor nuisance. It was the heart of the rebellion. And so, they changed their strategy. Instead of searching for the unseen enemy, they would strike where it hurt the most. The Dominion fleet, vast and unstoppable, moved toward Earth. This was no raid, no warning, no patience. This was eradication, and as the first Dominion warships entered the solar system, humanity prepared for its final stand. The time for secrecy was over. The war for Earth had begun. The Dominion fleet arrived like a storm, vast, relentless, merciless. Hundreds of warships descended upon the solar system, blotting out the stars as they took position around Earth. Their massive dreadnoughts, each the size of a city, loomed like harbingers of annihilation. Swarms of fighters patrolled the void, ensuring that nothing entered or escaped. From their vantage point, the Dominion commanders saw victory as inevitable. Earth had no fleet to counter them, no planetary defenses capable of repelling an armada. The Dominion had raised worlds with half this firepower. But Earth was not like the others. Humanity had never relied on brute force. They had no towering battle stations or planetary shields, but they had prepared. The moment the Dominion ships entered orbit, the trap was sprung. The first strike. For months, humanity had been modifying its infrastructure. Power grids had been rerouted, satellites had been repurposed, and Earth's own technology had been turned into a weapon. The Dominion's first mistake was assuming they controlled the battlefield. As their fleet moved into formation, the satellites above Earth, once used for communication, weather tracking, and navigation, exploded in synchronized bursts of electromagnetic energy. A massive EMP wave surged through the invading fleet, scrambling targeting systems, disabling shields, and throwing entire warships into disarray. The Dominion staggered, momentarily blinded. That was all humanity needed. The counterattack. The sky erupted with fire. From hidden silos across the planet, Earth launched its response. Not conventional missiles. Those would have been swatted from the sky, but kinetic bombardment weapons, disguised as decommissioned space junk. Hypervelocity rods, designed to penetrate even the thickest hulls, rained down upon the Dominion fleet. Warships that had once been untouchable shattered like glass, their hulls pierced clean through by Earth's improvised weaponry. Dreadnoughts, engines flickering, spiraled out of control, crashing into their own formations. On the ground, Earth's military forces engaged with precision. The Dominion had assumed control of airspace, but they had not accounted for humanity's ingenuity. Old fighter jets, retrofitted with Dominion salvage tech, wove through enemy formations, their outdated designs making them unpredictable to Dominion targeting algorithms. The streets became war zones. Dominion dropships deployed soldiers into major cities, expecting swift compliance. Instead, they found chaos. Guerrilla fighters struck from the shadows, armed with repurposed Dominion weapons. Civilian engineers rigged Dominion transport hubs with explosives, detonating them as enemy reinforcements arrived. In underground bunkers, hackers unleashed digital warfare, feeding false data into Dominion battle networks, turning their own forces against each other. This was not a desperate last stand. This was a plan. The turning point. For all their technology, the Dominion had underestimated the one thing they could never control: human adaptability. The battle raged for hours, then days. The Dominion, expecting a swift conquest, instead found themselves locked in a grueling war of attrition. Their once organized invasion was collapsing under Earth's relentless resistance. And then the final blow came. Deep beneath Antarctica, in the most secure research facility on the planet, the last phase of Earth's plan was activated. The experimental teleportation drive, refined in secret for years, was unleashed on a massive scale. Dominion warships vanished. Entire battalions, stationed in occupied zones, were suddenly transported into deep space, far beyond their fleet's reach. Others found themselves dropped into Earth's atmosphere without landing craft, their once feared warriors free-falling to their deaths. The Dominion invasion was falling apart, and for the first time in its long history, the Galactic Dominion faced something it had never encountered before: defeat. The Dominion had come to Earth expecting a swift, overwhelming victory. Instead, they found a battlefield where every inch of ground cost them dearly. Their warships, once symbols of unchallenged power, drifted in orbit, crippled, shattered, or simply gone, teleported to unknown locations. Their ground forces, meant to pacify the planet within days, were now fighting for survival in hostile cities, where every shadow concealed a new ambush. And Earth was not done yet. Breaking the chain of command. In the war room deep beneath Washington, General Amir Patel stared at the holographic display. The Dominion fleet was disorganized, struggling to regroup. Their command structure was failing. This was the moment. "Target their flagships," he ordered. "Cut off the head, and the body will die." Humanity's remaining arsenal, its repurposed kinetic weapons, stealth drone strikes, and even hijacked Dominion fighters, turned their focus toward the Dominion's high command. One by one, they fell. The Dominion's supreme commander, the architect of Earth's invasion, died screaming as his command ship was obliterated by a hijacked freighter packed with explosives. Other admirals, confused and leaderless, scrambled for control, issuing contradictory orders that only led to more chaos. With every passing hour, Dominion forces fractured. Some ships attempted to retreat, only to be ambushed by hidden Earth defenses. Others held their ground, desperately trying to reestablish control, only to find themselves targeted by their own corrupted systems, courtesy of Earth's cyber warfare teams. The once mighty Dominion fleet had become a graveyard. The Resistance strikes back. Earth was not the only battleground. News of the Dominion's failing invasion spread across the galaxy. Species that had long suffered under Dominion rule took their chance. On Kesra 9, rebel miners seized control of Dominion manufacturing plants, turning them into weapons factories. In the oceanic depths of Urith, an entire Dominion naval base was hijacked by insurgents who had been trained in secret by Earth's operatives. Across the stars, systems once ruled by fear erupted in rebellion. The Dominion was not just losing Earth, it was losing everything. The final blow. On Earth, Dominion forces, cut off from reinforcements, running out of supplies, made one last, desperate stand. Their command centers collapsed under precision strikes. Their ground troops, once an unstoppable force, were hunted through the ruins of cities by human soldiers and resistance fighters. And then, the final act of defiance. From the secret Antarctic research base, humanity activated its most dangerous experiment yet. Using the newly perfected teleportation technology, they did what had never been done before. They ripped open a portal, not to a distant part of space, but into the heart of the Dominion's own capital world. Captured Dominion soldiers, disabled warships, and mountains of wreckage were hurled through the gateway, crashing down upon the Dominion's throne world in a cataclysmic display of defiance. The message was clear. Earth was not just fighting back. Earth was winning. And the Dominion was falling. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Their word was law, their fleets unstoppable, their grip unbreakable. But now, their empire burned. The war for Earth had not just been a battle, it had been a reckoning. The once invincible fleet lay in ruins, their warships scattered across the void like debris from a dying star. Their ground forces, those who had not been killed or captured, surrendered in droves, their morale shattered. And across the stars, the galaxy rose up. The collapse begins. The destruction of the Dominion's forces at Earth had sent shockwaves through the Empire. Civilizations that had once feared them now turned against them. On Kesra 9, the miners turned rebels stormed the last Dominion outposts, declaring their independence. On Urith, former slaves flooded the streets, tearing down Dominion banners as their oppressors flowed into the oceans. Entire fleets, once loyal to the Dominion, now vanished into the void, defecting to the growing rebellion. The Dominion, stretched thin, desperate to maintain control, could not stop it. But Earth knew the Dominion was not yet defeated. The final warning. From the ruins of Geneva, a signal was broadcast across the galaxy. A final message from humanity to the Dominion. The face of General Emir Patil appeared on screens in every Dominion-controlled world, his voice calm but firm. Your time is over. You invaded our world, believing we would break, that we would kneel, that we would be afraid. You were wrong. The broadcast cut to the Dominion's throne world, once pristine, now littered with the wreckage of its own fleet. We are giving you a choice. End your rule. Withdraw from every occupied world. Return to your own system. The feed flickered to show the Antarctic teleportation array, now fully operational. Or we will bring the war to you. The Dominion bows. For the first time in history, the Dominion's ruling council hesitated. They still had fleets. They still had armies. But they had lost something far greater. Fear. The galaxy had seen the impossible, a species that had not only resisted the Dominion but had defeated them. The Dominion's enemies, once scattered and weak, were now united. And Earth had shown them that they were not afraid to fight. 3 days later, the official order was given. The Dominion withdrew. One by one, their warships vanished from occupied worlds. Their governors abandoned their posts. Their once mighty empire fractured, its power broken forever. A new era. As the last Dominion ship left the solar system, humanity stood victorious. But they knew this was only the beginning. Earth was no longer just a planet in the Dominion's shadow. It was now a leader, a symbol, a power in its own right. And as their ships, new ships, built by human hands, for human purpose, left orbit for the first time in centuries, the message was clear. Earth was no longer bound. Earth was taking the stars by storm.